Saf was cold, sore, wet, and generally miserable. They had been stupid, but Adril had proven to be the biggest moron of them all. Why hadn't they just camped and waited out the storm? She knew why, of course. They wanted to get back home for a hot dinner and a dry bed, and with a 30-ton dragon, who would be stopping them? As it turns out, the answer was weather, because of course it was. Next time they would bring Zarko, so they could find their way around without the sun, stars, or just a quick hop into the skies to help. They had laboured in the cold pouring rain to get Adril detached from what logs were still latched to her harness. The dragon had tried her best to shield them from the weather. Not that it was entirely of her own free will, but it did still help somewhat. Both she and Fengi were moving slowly, and Saf could even feel how slowly she was thinking. This was cold. This was far, far too cold to be good. They needed a fire and shelter. The only bright side was that Adril had at least been right about the wind. The tall, sheer hill that looked more like a cliff to Sapphire did indeed shield them from the worst of the biting wind.
We need a fire. We're freezing to death here. And where are you going to find dry wood out here?
Fengi replied slowly, yet loudly, to make her voice carry over the wind.
There,
Saf just responded, not willing to give a lengthy explanation as she pointed out the bunch of logs. All of the branches that had been laid atop them were strewn all about, but surely there was somewhere still nice and dry inside there.
Adril, help me. Do as she says,
Fengi almost instinctively shouted, mind only halfway there as Adril was already moving around to snatch away the tarp, to provide cover for the pile of wood, a large black wing spreading out to keep the rain at bay. I want the fire too, idiots.
You're the idiot here,
Seth grumbled aloud, as she trudged towards the wood. She had kindling, oil, and Tom's lighter with her. She had been more than a little relieved to find that the satchel in question was still in its place, dangling from Adril's harness. They had been camping in the forest, after all, so they had at least taken the precaution of bringing extra supplies. For once, Adril didn't respond, though neither the trip down the hill nor the weather seemed to have impeded the dragon overly. With the rain off the wood, Saf went to work trying to clear away enough of the tarp to get to the precious dry branches within. Soon enough, Fengi joined in the efforts, as they dug away, until finally their hands touched something dry for the first time since yesterday.
Oh, thank the gods,
Saf sighed, as she started pulling out branches. Fengi taking them and starting to build a fire a little ways away from the pile, and a bit closer to Adril.
Here is as good a place as any, I think.
Agreed, was all Saf could say, as the small part began to mount. They didn't have the tools, time, nor strength to do much, aside from just pile it high, and maybe make some more kindling using their knives, so bare branches would have to do. Give me that, Adril ordered, as Saf tossed down a rather large branch. It was probably too big to just go on the fire, but they could let one end stick out and feed it in slowly if they had to. Not thinking much of it, Saf tossed it clear. Well, she tried to, and the result fell rather short. Adril just sighed like she was cleaning up after a pair of messy children, and grabbed the branch between two claws. Then she squeezed and with a crunch, popped it more or less in half. There you go. Better. Want me to break that one too?
Oh, right,
was all Saf could say, going to grab another large one.
Sure, here. One more. Unicorn-blessed wood split by a dragon. If people didn't have a clue how we got here, we could sound like royalty on a picnic,
Fengi let out, betraying a hint of careful optimism that the worst of it was over, while Adril dutifully snapped the branch in half.
Fengi, I have never felt less royal than I do right now. This sucks,
Saf countered, rather failing to mimic the cheery attitude.
My tail is frozen. Can't feel the tip. I'm wet, soon to be hungry, and I'm camped in a storm in autumn. I hate it. Well, at least we won't die out here, and with a fire it might even get a little bit comfy.
Talons crossed, Saf agreed, as she tried to throw another piece of wood, this one closer to an actual log towards Adril, who picked it up and cleaved it with her talons. Once the fire had been properly built, They made some extra kindling just in case, and even poured some oil on it for good measure. Dakota would probably be giving a talk on how you didn't need that if you knew what you were doing, but Saf somehow found it impossible to care right now. Saf brought out the lighter, and with a few flicks of her thumb she had lit an oily stick and stuck it in the fire. It took a few tense moments as they all three watched to see if the fire would take, as the rain pounded away, a flash of thunder lighting up everything brightly, even under a drill's black leather wing. Saf found herself releasing a breath as the flames started licking up the roughly split logs and branches, a warm yellow glow starting to light up their small, impromptu camp. "So far so good," Fengi sighed, going to sit by the fire, spreading her wings out and holding her hands close. Saf mimicked her position, trying to soak as much heat as she could from the flames, remembering to wrap her tail around so it too could get warmed up a little. She did not want to lose the tip to frostbite. If it had to go, surely battle or a flying accident would be a better story. Soon, the fire was burning brightly, and Fengi added a bit more wood, looking to the dragon as she moved to coil fully around the flames. "At least the fire is nice." "You know, that might be the first nice thing you said," Saf countered, not feeling terribly forgiving right now, though she did appreciate the last of the wind getting shut out. Adriel didn't bother with a rebuttal, instead just laying her head in the mud close to the fire, making 3 people who were now staring into the dancing flames. "Remember to make a hole for the smoke somewhere," Fengi added. One annoyed sigh later, and Adriel's wing had been moved just enough to make an opening at the top, even if it did let in a bit of water, which ran down the dragon's side. "I guess that's the camp then. Actually, are the skins still up there?" Saf questioned, looking up at what she could see of the dragon's firelit sides. "They'll be soaked through by now, won't they?" "I'll go check," the dragon rumbled, probably sensing an order in the works, and beating Fengi to it, her head sliding back out of the impromptu tent, and letting wind and water in, along with what little light was left outside. Luckily it didn't take long before the great big dragon's head returned to plug the hole, this time with a ragtag bundle of wolf furs in her mouth. "Still here." "Oh, yes, please," Saf all but gasped. She did not want to sleep without any covers in this weather, that was for sure. "We're going to need to dry them." Both huntresses turned to look at the dragon, who just dumped them next to the fire. "Ta-da," she said, in the most unenthusiastic tone possible. "No, that's mud. Oh, come on," Fengi protested, getting up and saving the soaked furs from getting even worse. Then she started looking around for somewhere to lay the furs out to dry, not finding much except for a black dragon and a pile of branches. "Mind if I just lay them on a leg? What about that one, rear right?" the young woman questioned, pointing to the dragon's hindquarters. "Ugh, fine," Adriel relented, sticking the leg out to be at least somewhat close to the fire. "Thanks." "Not like I'm wet or cold or anything." "I know, I'm sorry." "Don't be," Saf grumbled, as she pulled her tail a bit further away from the fire. It was getting really nice and hot now, and getting burned would just be embarrassing. "We all fucked up. Now we have to live with it." "Oh, so you do admit to being a useless little mayfly." "No, I admit that I should have guessed you can't even work out how to walk from one place to another, and demanded we make camp sooner, you useless reptile." "I am a dragon. Some of us are treated with respect." "Those who have earned it." "Or born to it." "Oh, shut up. For what you did, even a white would be put to death, and you know it. You're the luckiest bastard to ever dare set foot on this island." "Lucky! Lucky!" Adriel snarled, with ill-concealed outrage, baring her teeth at Sapphire. It took all that Saf could muster to not flinch away from the display, remembering the screams of the guardsmen down in the tunnels, and what the dragon's acid could do. But she was safe in the knowledge that Adriel could not harm them. Not anymore, much as she might wish to. "Oh, would you just stop it, both of you?" Fengi finally cried out, the desperation in her voice only stifled by the cold and tiredness, as they both had to feel right now.
This won't make anything better now, will it? Well, letting her get away with calling everyone else idiots and useless children will certainly make it worse, Saf snarled, head snapping to glare at Fengi, a reaction she would immediately regret seeing the hurt on Fengi's face. But Sapphire was angry, and rightfully so. I know. Just please. Fine, Saf reluctantly agreed, not out of agreement with Fengi's sentiment, but for the younger woman's sake instead. Adril let out a bemused rumble, like she had somehow won that. Arguing with idiots, I tell you, Saf cursed, consigning herself to simply not letting her irritation show too much. Maybe we should think about something to eat, Saf. We could at least warm up some things, and it's not like water is scarce. You don't say, Adril grumbled with disdain. Saf didn't even spare the big, scarred head a glance, keeping her eyes locked on Fengi. Yeah, we could even make some tea if you wanted. You know, just to warm up, Fengi continued, also ignoring Adril. Now that sounds like a properly brilliant idea. The little kettle is in there, I think. I'll get it, Saf agreed, getting up and walking over to the packed travel supplies, notably ignoring the large pot they had brought too. Adril let out a long drawn-out sigh, head turning slightly away from the fire. Saf desperately wanted to make some remark about how that's what she got for being such an insufferable ass and risking their lives for no gain, but she had promised. Do dragons drink tea? Fengi then asked cautiously, and Saf's shoulders dropped a little as she just stared at the dull black side of Adril. Even from here, she could hear Adril's head turn back to look in towards the fire in Fengi. I am not sure we brought enough tea, but maybe just hot water? Adril didn't immediately answer. Saf turning around to look at the dragon, whose head was simply lying there looking at Fengi, then glancing to the warm dancing flames. I suppose it wouldn't be the worst. Saf just closed her eyes and took a breath. Can't even say yes please or thank you after nearly getting us killed. Saf, could you bring the pot too? Fengi asked, getting up and walking to the pile of branches, likely looking for some wet ones for making a stand to hang the pot from. Of course, Saf responded with false cheer, going to grab the large pot as well, and hauling it over. Put it over there, Adril said in her least disrespectful tone yet, gesturing where her tail wrapped around to go back outside, and the wing covering them hung the lowest. Saf looked at Adril skeptically for a moment before the dragon grumbled, With how it's raining, I've been washed quite clean, I can assure you of that. Saf didn't say anything, just walking over and setting down the pot, stepping back as the dragon shifted her wing a little. She broke the seal and the wind howled inside, Saf stepping back from the cold, and only now really feeling how much warmer it already was inside, not just feeling the heat from the fire itself. Water came pouring down Adril's wing, though most of it missed. The dragon shifted her wing multiple times to try and improve the situation. The pot was still getting filled, though, and the wind was nowhere bad enough to blow away all of the nice warmth the fire was providing. That's quite neat, Fengi added, standing next to the fire, busy tying together some sticks into a basic three-legged frame. Especially when there is no one willing to fill a water skin for you, Adril grumbled broodingly, watching her work as she kept on trying to fill the pot faster. Gonna be quite the water skin for a dragon, surely, Fengi responded, seemingly aiming to try some small talk of all things. I remember seeing the one Jarrex has. Don't think I've ever seen him bother to fill it, though. They all had one. Arch and Galaxa too. Galaxa filled his before he left. Arch didn't bother, I think. They are heavy, and it's easier to just find a lake or a stream somewhere now, isn't it? Adril countered. But it sucks if you need it one day. Yeah, I bet. The wind was blowing gently across Tom's snout. Ears laid flat back, though still picking up the forced calm in the breathing of the dragonettes standing at his sides. They were his fellow cadets. He was outside, standing in a courtyard. The low walls all around were set with thick, tall, round towers, solid granite construction to his eyes.
Attention! A much older and well-dressed dragonette called out. They all straightened, hands clasping behind their backs and looking dead ahead. There had to be at least 40 of them assembled in the yard, 3 officers walking up and down the line and inspecting them from top to toe. At the far wall behind the speaking man stood the Inquisitors. Tom knew the man, but not those who stood beyond. He felt excited as his eyes darted down the line. Flanking their 20-strong square stood 12 dragons. 2 were wearing armour much like he remembered Baron carrying, while others wore little but light travel rigging. But one caught his eye, a massive white dragon with the coldest bright blue piercing eyes he had ever seen. The massive dragon was draped in thick, padded coverings tied tight with leather straps and gilded buckles, only the glinting bare metal visible near the edge betraying what lay beneath. Tom felt his heart climb into his throat, and his breath become laboured as one of the officers strode by, his eyes snapping back to the front and holding at attention. The officer looked him up and down before grunting approvingly, giving a slight nod before carrying on down the line. I know you have all waited for this day, and there is no one left not worthy of the chance to serve our great nation. The officer spoke up again, his voice carrying with authority all throughout the courtyard. Today you join the ranks of the Inquisition proper. Today, your true training will begin. Some of you will become legends, others silent heroes working in the shadows. All will do their duty to ensure the safety and stability of the kingdom. You will each be assigned a duty becoming of your skills. All of you here today will serve an honoured Inquisitor as a member of their retinue. You will serve them well, and in return you will learn the ways of our order in the field. Do not fear. Do not falter. The enemy will not. And you all know well the consequences of failure. Do not bother making requests or demands. Your posts have already been assigned. Step forward when you are called. Kareli, Quaren. Revan, Letho. Tonari, Estan. From 3 different places, 3 dragonettes stepped forward. 2 female, 1 male. All looking stern as stone, though a hint of pride was to be seen in them all. Inquisitor Bellatrax Missinati, Fort Jakova. The 3 cadets gave a quick nod, before jogging off in an ordered fashion towards one of the Inquisitors, standing at the far wall, being received with stern glances and salutes. Kolek Ignari, Victoria Jalar, Orko Finkeri, Inquisitor Vintar Hashor. Tom found himself turning his head to stare at the Inquisitor in question. They did not seem to have noticed Tom, his attention instead being placed upon the 3 new recruits jogging towards him. I guess no family privilege this time, then. A male dragonette behind Tom and to his right let out, in a tone somewhere between teasing and malicious. Tom's ears didn't even flinch, attention instead turning back to the man speaking. Estefan Veg, Tritari Cartha, Jelena Hashor, Inquisitor Harvick Sheen. Tom stepped forward, moving between the lines to get up front and standing at attention once more, before going to jog towards his new master. Inquisitor Harvick was a ravished old man who stood hunched over, though he had a fierceness of expression Tom had only rarely seen. His face was scarred, his left eye milky and white, horns replaced with metal ones, worn smooth by decades of use, runes lining their full length. The 3 cadets stood at attention before him, saluting though receiving none in reply. Instead, he slowly lumbered forward, looking for all the world like he could use a cane, his singular clear eye inspecting them in detail once more. Young, tender, comfortable, he let out, in a low predatory tone as he circled them. Hardly a scratch or a pain to be seen. We will fix that. Oh, yes, we will. Follow. The old man led them towards the waiting dragons, and Tom felt his spirits sink as their destination turned out to be the Ancient White. The dragon was staring right through them, eyes seeming to be glowing with reflective light, even in the overcast weather and biting wind. "Only 3 this year?" the dragon questioned, in a deep, sonorous voice loaded with skepticism. "So it would seem. We will make do," Inquisitor Harvick responded, turning back around to face the cadets who once more stood at attention. "I don't know, nor do I care if you know who I am. We are going north, as far north as we can. Notify your armory master. He will give you what you require to survive the trip." Behind me stands Chaika. Him you should damn well know, so I need not tell you the respect he deserves. We depart tomorrow at dawn. Write to your families if you wish. You will not be able to again until winter sets in. If you survive, that is. "Permission to speak, sir," the male cadet, Estefan, let out, still standing at attention. "If you wish," the old Inquisitor responded, looking to the young cadet. "What is our mission?" "We are to watch our northernmost bastions and settlements for any signs of corruption, intrusion, or danger. But I can assure you, our largest enemy will be the weather. And the natives." "Natives, sir?" "The ice grows thick. It can carry more than you think," Harvick muttered with a cruel expression, as he looked at his other 2 new cadets. "Sure. I didn't think they would ever give me another one. Are you sure your mother would not rather have you directing armies without worrying about orders or consequences?" "My mother is the general of the army. She takes orders only from the king and the council," Tom found himself answering, in the by now familiar female tone. Though his voice was deeper than in the dungeon, yet it was not as hard as he remembered Jelina's to be. "I suppose so. Who bothers with children when you can do it yourself? After all, you might get it wrong." "Am I to take it that my family line will be a problem on this mission?" Tom questioned, with defiance in his tone, turning to look the Inquisitor dead in the eye, even as he felt his heart pounding in his chest. It took a tense moment before the Inquisitor smiled evilly. "No, I think you will be perfect. Stubbornness has saved many from the cold. I hear you are a mind reader," he would carry on, his tone turning more curious. "Correct, sir, though I can melt them too." "Very good, very good. I will make good use of you. It is harder to lie to your kind, after all." He turned back to the rest of the retinue, all standing arrayed at Chaika's feet at ease. "Glass, do try to keep this one alive. I want her set upon Lord Tika as soon as we get there." "Understood, sir," a tall woman clad in padded, warm-looking armor responded, helmet held under her arm, and spear leant against her shoulder. "Though I might recommend something more than mere padding once they discover your new toy." Now, Glass, you heard the Fortress Master. These are honored members of the Inquisition, destined to become heroes one and all," Harvick retorted sarcastically, turning back to peer at the cadets. "Well, maybe 1 in 3. Saf and Fengi had made some tea for themselves, joking to themselves that they really should have taken Tom up on the offer of bringing sugar for the tea. But with the money it had proven to be worth. They hadn't thought they could bring themselves to drink it on a simple camping trip. Right now, though, she was sure they could have managed to justify the expense just fine. It had taken some time to boil the big pot of water, and Saf had burnt herself a little lifting it off the fire. Adriel had refrained from making a rude or snarky comment at Saf's expense when she burnt herself. She had dropped the pot, spilling a bit of the hot water, though luckily not on her feet. At least most of it stayed in the pot. The dragon had instead delicately picked up the pot between 2 long slender claws, as Saf cursed and clutched at her hand, bringing it to her mouth and tipping it in, still steaming. It made a good mouthful, and she seemed to enjoy it, letting out a contented rumble followed by a long sigh, as she put it back down again a little clumsily. Then she laid her head on the drying ground near the fire and stared into the flames. Saf supposed it might soon even be warm. Her suspicions had been happily confirmed as they had sat around the fire, Fengi helping to bandage up the burn. Saf once more silently cursed Unkai for not coming. It was only a slight burn, but infections were always a pain to deal with, especially if they ended up stuck here for a few days, or however long this storm decided to last. Saf was still hopeful that they would be home by the end of the day tomorrow. They just needed good enough weather for her or Fengi to take flight, and they would be alright. As they sat around the warm fire, Fengi soon began to nod her head, heavy with fatigue. Adril had seemingly already fallen asleep, the rushing air from her nostrils fanning the fire with every long, slow breath. Agreeing to turn in for the night, they had grabbed the furs, still not quite dry, but certainly better than nothing. They added a bit more fuel to the fire, wrapped up one by one, and lay down beside it to stare into the flames. It would last for a few hours, and with a little luck, some of the heat wouldn't escape their improvised tent. Sapphire wanted to perhaps chat just a little now that the dragon had given in, but found her question of, "So, do you think it will clear up tomorrow?" met only with silence and then a snore. "Yeah, fair enough," she conceded, closing her own eyes. Sleep came swiftly and suddenly. When next she blinked her eyes open, it was morning. A slight beam of dim grey light peeking in through the gap left by Yadril for the smoke to escape. The acrid smell of wood smoke filled the air, and the fire was but a patch of cold, dead charcoal in the middle of the dim space. Not even a wisp of smoke rose from it. Fengi didn't seem to be up yet, but Adril's eye was open. The faint amber glow to the large single iris standing out clear in the dim light. The dragon was staring into the middle distance and seemed lost in thought. The rain was still drumming, though more gently, and the ground had remained dry, the great dam that was Adril's body having spared them a soaking through the night. Saf spent some time just watching the dragon, who did not seem to have noticed her stir yet. "And just what are you thinking about right now?" Saf pondered to herself as she kept watching. "How much you fucked up yesterday? How much you messed up coming here? Memories of when life was fun thanks to all the shit you stole? Yeah, you better ponder." "Morning. Busy considering just how much you messed up?" Saf asked in a low tone, hoping not to wake Fengi up. She would not approve of what Saf had to say. "No," came the flat response from Adril, who didn't even spare Saf a look, and instead turned her head away, leaving nothing but black scowls for Saf to study. She had rather expected a bit more than that, so she pushed a little harder. "Come on, all that ill-gotten gold? Life must have been nice. Enough ale to get a dragon drunk, good food, slaves to tend your every need." Adril didn't answer, which was answer enough for Sapphire. "Come on, Fengi's sleeping. This is your time to gloat about what you used to do to people like me. You made it quite clear you hate keep dwellers. So what did you do?" "Oh, many things. Not sure what I would like to do to you, though. Probably eat you alive. You would be surprised how long someone can make it if you don't crush them. It makes it more personal, I think. That or maybe squash you slowly underfoot. Then I could see your face. No more smug self-satisfaction. Just fear of death. Oh, I used to love it." "Oh, I don't know. I'm quite smug. Sure you could wipe it all off?" "A stick in the mud had you screaming like a 3-year-old. Don't flatter yourself." Saf responded with an indignant huff, looking up to the wing and trying to see where the raindrops landed, as the light from outside barely shone through, making the membrane look more grey than black. "I guess you have never been scared then? Never been the little one?" "Oh no, I seem to remember something different happening. Something with a unicorn, I think it was." "Very funny. No, real fear takes longer," Adril replied glumly, though not defensively as Saf had honestly expected. The dragon could be rather touchy after all. You need to let it sink in. "I guess I don't know real fear then," Saf said with a huff, rolling her eyes freely. What an idiot.
Duh. I wasn't scared when I screamed and cried. That's not real fear, honestly.
No, I guess you don't.
Does getting kicked out from home to live on the streets of the capital count? I was 15, scared shitless and had no clue what I was doing. But it wasn't really that bad. I worked it out in the end. Food, roof, a little fun here and there. Just took a bit.
Now it was Adril's turn to huff indignantly, still not turning to face Sapphire. Is this your plan? Compare yourself to me? Kicked out into the cold alone in winter with nothing worth carrying to help you? Was that your plan?
No, not really. But I am curious. Why did they do it? I mean, really? Sure, they might have said food, but why? If it was just that, why not let you go in spring? And surely you would have known they were in trouble. And you sleep for most of winter anyway.
And why should I tell you? Why were you kicked out? Parents didn't love you enough?
Oh no, not that. Too many mouths to feed. And parents wouldn't stop adding mouths to feed. So they were told to give some of us up. Me and 2 older siblings were chosen. Out we went early in spring. First trader out of there.
And what does a little orphan girl do in the capital with a pair of siblings? Please tell me, I'm ever so interested.
Adril replied, voice dripping with sarcasm. I did what I did best. That's to say, I became the best.
I find that statement hard to believe.
Well, I won the championship eventually. I'm pretty sure that is what champion means, actually.
Champion of what? Pathetic peasant hollow bragging?
Saf rolled over a little to get the furs off, tapping a claw against her, now rather dirty and slightly dull necklace. I really need to polish that thing. Oh well. Tonselra, not some little league either. Adril's head did finally turn around at this, her singular bright yellow eye staring at the necklace intently, before she turned away again.
No, you didn't. That's a fake.
Well, fuck you too, I guess. No, it's not a fake. Sapphire Silver Streak Rayland, 2341.
Silver Streak, Adril echoed in a low, disappointed tone.
Oh, I guess I am not a big fat liar then, huh?
You have maybe seen the game before. You are still a fat liar. Why would you go out here, the arse end of nowhere? Answer that for me, why don't you?
Maybe she got tired of dipshits proposing to her, or the attention, or she wanted a job less likely to get her killed.
Guess it's not the first time you've spun this one. Congratulations, your story almost makes sense.
Right. Ask me a question then. If you can think of anything only Silverstreak would know.
And how would I know that, eh? I know jack and shit about that prancy fuck, aside from having to listen to constant droning on about how amazing she and the other races were.
Oh, you didn't even come watch?
They don't exactly let dragons like me come watch.
Shame. I guess I'll have to show off one of these days then. I quite like doing that.
I would never have guessed. Maybe you could have convinced that little dipshit. Who was it? Tono or something like that. You're the real deal. He said he proposed to her once. We all laughed at the idiot when he came back all slack-eared. Maybe he would have been happy here living a lie. If he even actually did it. Bloody coward.
Saf couldn't help but let out a chuckle at that. She couldn't remember anyone by that name. Still, it was an amusing thought. She guessed mercenary dragon crew weren't the sort disposed towards being shy or scaredy, even if this guy had apparently been a coward. There had certainly been plenty of shady ones. She remembered that much. What? Who proposed? Huh? Fengi let out, groggily rubbing her eyes open. Oh, nothing. Just reminiscing on old times, Saf replied, as Fengi made it to proper consciousness, eyes darting between the two of them. You aren't fighting, are you? Nah, just learning a little, Saf chaffed, with a snarky grin on her face. Thank the gods. Has the rain got any better?
No, Adro added flatly, letting out a long sigh. But the wind mostly fucked off.